So Arc Raiders is shaping up to be one of the best extraction shooters this year and has the overall potential to be better than Escape from Tarkov. And after months of waiting, specifically me waiting to get part of one of the beautiful playtests that has happened, I finally got the chance to jump into Arc Raiders Server Slam playtest that ran this past weekend. Now, Embark Studios, the indie dev that is showcasing this new extraction shooter after their huge success on the shooter The Finals, I spent a solid 3 hours in the playtest live on stream, and to be honest, 3 hours is barely scratching the surface. But it's enough to tell if this game is going to be the next big thing or is just another extraction shooter. This episode is my honest, immediate first impressions after streaming it. Let's break it down. So now I know what some of you are thinking. How is this game better than Tarkov? Honestly, that's quite a bold claim in itself, and I would agree with you. Tarkov over the years has set the gold standard for what hardcore extraction shooters, with its intricate gear mechanics, the brutal combat, unparalleled tension, but Arc Raiders is taking those core tenets and elevating them while also simultaneously innovating in ways Tarkov probably cannot. The very first thing that hit me was the vibe. This game leans hard into this retro, futuristic, cassette punk aesthetic, and its sound design in particular is very fantastic. Visually though, from the moment you drop into the underground hub Speranza, everything is just quite polished. And honestly, polished is an understatement, because for a playtest where they're trying to test this game to the absolute extreme, the technical performance was surprisingly smooth. I was running hundreds of frames in this game, no problem. My first 30 minutes was all about the onboarding side of things, how easy it is to learn the loop, and honestly, it's great. The game doesn't hit you with an overwhelming 30-minute tutorial. It drip feeds you information with a simple initial quest chain that gently just guides you from looting to crafting to your first extraction. The controls felt immediately satisfying. The third-person movement is fluid, your character has weight, the traversal is responsive, and that over-the-shoulder camera just works, man. I know some players always want first person, but the current design makes corner peeking and awareness a core part of the gameplay, which I do appreciate. My only slight complaint is the map itself. Now, during this playtest, we were only allowed to play on the damn battlegrounds. By looking at the map, there's quite a few different locations that we definitely can go to once the full game finally released, but the damn battlegrounds is huge, but it felt a bit too generic with this generic post-apocalyptic ruined world in some areas. But the huge variety of locations, from the buried city to the different locations that you can drop in, just overall feel quite distinct enough. Overall, a very strong first impression from a technical and design perspective, especially for somebody who has not touched any of the previous playtests. So let's talk about the bread and butter, the extraction loop. It's simple. You load in, scavenge the surface, loot for resources, complete a quest, extract, rinse, and repeat. Looting itself is quite methodical. You spend a lot of time opening containers. What makes it interesting is the resource segmentation. Ammo is very scarce, split into different light, medium, heavy, so you're constantly weighing the value of the loot versus the resource cost of fighting for it. You can't just spam high tier weapons, and the most tense part of the loop is the extraction point itself. Unlike some other games where it's a quiet walk to a portal, but in Arc Raiders, you basically have to activate this beacon at this deposit area, and it basically sounds this big ass alarm bell for every player and every arc nearby. Overall, in my 3 hours of playing, I had 2 successful extracts in my first 3 hours and plenty of failures. I had plenty of almost extractions or getting outmaneuvered by other players. Like, it's been times where I could have made it, just didn't get a chance to make it. And you can also be downed, which I find was interesting, because essentially you can get downed and have a possibility to potentially extract, which I saw from some other creators who are playing, which leads to that just amazing, just holy shit, I made it just in time moments, which makes pure extraction shooter adrenaline. Crucially, the extraction points are open from the moment you start. If you find one amazing legendary item, you can build right then and there. You don't have to feel stuck for 30 minutes. This design choice is pretty good. I've seen some players attempt that. and I've seen some players distract with others, which that one I need to look a little bit more into. But it seems like you can overall work together with other people because there is also proximity chat as well. So it seems like you can all work together to essentially extract together if you would like. And of course, be careful because there could be some betrayals into that as well. Moving on to the combat, of course, the main thing that we care about the most. The combat has two distinctive sides. There's the PvE against the arcs and PvP against other players. The PvE is surprisingly demanding. The arc is the robots that you see spread around the entire map. And I'm gonna tell you this right now, they are not cannon fodder. So you have smaller ticks that swarm you. There's a snitch that roams the sky, and if you get caught by it, it calls in reinforcements, and good luck when they do that. And the bigger mech enemies like the Leaper, oh my god, that thing is scary, force you to basically either A, survive, or B, learn how to target some weak points or pull in some heavy artillery, because my god, that thing is frightening. In a squad, this is fun, tactical engagement. And also, I played enough to be able to check out the night raid, which honestly, that mode right there felt like a true survival horror at times. Every shot you fired was a risk of being caught by the noise. The amount of arcs are almost tripled, quadrupled the amount. They're everywhere. There's leapers everywhere. Like, the ambience of the woods is scary. Even the damn birds that are like the owls and whatever the animals out there is just making noise. It's just overall scary. The gunplay itself is already incredibly satisfying. The weapons feel very punchy, responsive, and distinct. There's a weight and a recoil that rewards skill, but it's more approachable than Tarkov's often unforgiving early game. This means a lower barrier to entry for new players without sacrificing the depth that veterans crave. And also, the customization, even though it's not as hyper-realistic as Tarkov's, it's deep enough to allow for significant personalization and strategic loadout choices. Then we move on over to the PvP side of things, which, keep in mind, this is all happening in one simple raid, right? This is where the game will live or die for most people. I had time and time again multiple encounters with different players. The key differentiator here is the time to kill. So essentially you get a overarching shield, so you cannot technically be one-shotted. This completely changed the dynamics. The one time I was playing Escape from Tarkov, it felt like give it one good bullet or 2 or 3 shots and I was game over. It shifts the focus from who saw who first to who has a better aim, better positioning, and better resource management. It feels less punishing than something like Tarkov or even Hunt Showdown, which I think makes it far more accessible and less rage-inducing. So the bigger question is, what happens when you actually make it out? You return to Speranza, then you get the hub. This hub is your overall home base for where you are used to extract your resources. There's the crafting system, which is pretty straightforward. You take the raw materials, you loot it, turn them into new weapons, ammo, shield modules, and even health packs. And even after just 3 hours of me playing, I can already feel the depth here. You're not relying on finding some high-end gear. No, you're building it, which makes the scavenging feel really incredible and purposeful. On the progression side of things, I started dipping my toes into that skills tree, right? This is the permanent progression track that unlocks quality of life bonuses, like you get faster loot, speed, increased stamina, you can increase your survival, your mobility, your conditioning, and just overall, like, hey, even when a grenade goes off, it dampens the noise for you so you're not all disoriented. It's all very amazing. This is basically an XP based system that ensures even if you had a bad run and lose all your gear, you're still making some progress on your Raiders build. The balance between session to session looting and the permanent progression felt really well tuned. Every match felt like it contributed to a greater goal, which is essential for a game like this. But let's talk a little bit about my final thoughts, right? After 3 solid hours in a server slam, what is my takeaway? Let's talk about the good. The vibe in itself, I really enjoyed the vibe. That's one thing I did not really vibe with when it came to Escape from Tarkov. It was just too realistic. Like, we got Modern Warfare for something like that, you know? Too realistic for my liking, but I love that retro futuristic aesthetic and sound design that Arc Raiders give out. Also, accessibility. The gentle learning curve and forgiving time to kill make this a great entry point to extraction shooter genre. When you dive somebody into something like Tarkov, it can turn a lot of people away. And of course, Tarkov, yes, is known as the Dark Souls of shooters, but my God, I feel like it's a little too realistic when it comes to things. It kind of dampens some of the gameplay. Now, of course, I ain't trying to step on none of my Tarkov fans' shoes, but this is kind of how the people I've spoke to and the people I've seen when they are talking about Tarkov, why they don't play it. A lot of these points are always given up. Like, what the hell is going on over there? Lastly, the tension. The extraction sequence is honestly a masterclass in high stakes, high risk reward. I've seen many clips, many people covering it, many streams of people just having those moment to moment sections of just like having fun. When it comes to Tarkov, I don't really see that all too often. And it's just like, man, it's just like, it just seems like this one just seems a lot more fun and still having that high stakes that you'll get from Tarkov. Now, some my things that I feel like could need a little bit of work is the intention of PvP. So far in my 3 hours, it's not really clear what the right way to play is. The community I've seen seems quite split between friendly co-op, immediate betrayal, which can lead to frustrating moments because at some points, like I said, there's proximity chat. You can talk to other players, and it kind of brings up that real life survival side of things. Like, hey, do you trust this random group of strangers, or do you just shoot them outright? Some cases, you got some people who just want to work with you, loot up, and leave together, or stuff like that. So currently right now, I feel like I don't really think there's a true way to work on that. I just think this is just down to the community as a whole. Also, the pacing of loot. Sometimes that moment-to-moment looting can feel a little slow if you're not actively getting into fights. Because right now, with like, I can go minutes without even getting into a battle with another player. And I can, and 9 times out of 10, it's just mainly fighting the arc robots, or avoiding them. So I don't know how many players are basically dropped onto the map to really get that sense of mini fights. I think so far every run I've maybe had one gunfight with a player, maybe two, and that's if or not we made it that run. So it kind of, I feel like it needs a little bit of work there on how many players are actually available for raiding in the location. Now, my verdict is this. The hype is definitely real. Arc Raiders takes the familiar extraction shooter formula, fixes so many of the genre's typical frustrations, that oppressive time to kill, instant one-shot deaths, the reliance on some form of a lucky spawn, and replaces them with a more measured, tactical, and frankly just more fun experience. If this is the state of the game right before its October 30th launch, then I'm going to tell you this right now, Embark Studios has a serious hit on their hands. Now, look, I know a lot of you are constantly searching for some hidden gem RPGs that are actually worth your time. And that's literally why my channel exists. I play demos, indie releases, so you know what's actually worth downloading. If you want more honest first looks at games like this, you don't want none of the bullshit, you just want me to talk real to you, keep it a buck with you, then hit that subscribe button. I'm covering new demos and releases every single week. Drop a comment below. Have you guys played the playtest for Arc Raiders? If you were in the Server Slam this weekend, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you love it, or are you still on the fence? Other than that, stay safe, Outcast. It has been your host, KSTTV, signing out. Peace.